listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Hello, we're back at Animal Party, Pet Life Radio. So, okay, Dr. Coren, you know about how in the news lately there were these 3 pit bull attacks in Surrey. And a couple of years ago there was a dog killed. They called it a service dog, a little foo-foo dog in Maple Ridge. Do you remember all that? I'm sure you've read about it. Well, so there was an attack on a little dog, and the 2 dogs that are guilty of that attack and were actually convicted, and I believe the owners and the dogs relocated and left town. This is what I understand of the story. So these 2 pit bulls in a yard, they were always in this yard where they lived all the time, and they're the ones who are guilty of killing this little dog that was in the news. They sell their house, and the new owners, who are terrific people, have a dog who is a mutt, total mutt, happens to look a little bit like a pit bull, same color as the other 2. They move him into the yard, and the neighbors start freaking out. Everybody thinks it's this other dog still there. The neighbors start acting weird. All of a sudden, their sweet dog who loves everybody is starting to act weird, right? Because it comes 2 ways. Anyway, so I have to meet this dog after he's already suspicious of everybody, had a few incidents, kind of becoming the pariah of the neighborhood when he used to be the happy-go-lucky dog park dog of the neighborhood. The people relocated onto this lot because it borders on a dog park near a dike and where all the dogs go because their dog loves dogs. And now they've got this situation. And I meet this dog and I gradually introduce him because now he's been picked on and, hated and he's all stressed out. I gradually introduce him, and at first he's reacting to everybody, but within a few days, he stayed here a week. Within a few days, he liked everybody, even the annoying intact males. I mean, he liked everybody. He was good with the foo-foo dogs and the big dogs. So I had to go to the neighborhood with this lady and walk him around there and show everyone. Go in and out of stores, go around the cafe she likes to go to the supermarket she likes to tie him outside, all this kind of stuff, right? Like just prove to her, prove to him, prove to everyone. This dog likes everybody. And now it's done. But can you imagine the bad luck moving in there? And it is 2 ways, right? I mean, this dog was getting... Yeah, can you explain that a little bit?
Well, dogs are very, very reactive to human responses. And in fact, actually, there's some new data which shows that there's a place in the dog's brain which reacts specifically to positive and negative responses from human beings. So dogs are social beings, and if they're getting sort of hostile responses, then of course they begin to act defensively. And this is part of the problem which we find in a number of behavior problems. Like, you have a woman who says that when she's out walking her dog on leash, the dog gets very hostile whenever any other dog comes close. Well, then you come and you take a look and you see that, in fact, what she's been doing all along is that she's been feeling a bit insecure and she's been hauling back on the leash. That takes the dog, pulls his front legs off the ground so he looks like he's rearing. And, of course, another dog who sees a dog rearing at them takes that as a hostile response and so responds aggressively. And then the dog, after a while, now begins to look at any new dog which coming toward him, and he says, every dog I've approached has acted hostilely. I'm going to act defensively. So we are very often triggering these responses in our dogs.
I have that sometimes with a person who their dog loves them so much, considers them so weak, and thinks they need protection. It's usually the lady, not always though. And, the dog will be perfectly good for the guy, who's a big tough guy. But the lady, when the lady walks the dog, every time she gets nervous because she's so afraid her dog's going to misbehave, he misinterprets that. And he thinks she's nervous and scared of that oncoming dog or person. And he starts to go into protection mode. I pick up the leash, and sometimes I'm half the size of these ladies. I pick up the leash, and the dog's completely mellow. He's knows I'm not worried about the dog coming up or the person coming up, and he totally relaxes. Give it back to her, and he's protecting his fragile little owner. And I have to teach these ladies to, not be so nervous. Relax. It's okay. It's a hard thing to teach them.
Yeah, and generally speaking, I mean, it's the sort of thing which I tell people, slack your lead and let the dogs meet each other. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that they'll turn the leashes into puppy macrame, by twisting around or that sort of thing. But generally speaking, the dogs work it out perfectly well on their own.
So, okay, I want to just let everybody know I've been talking about all these different dogs that I work with. That's because I'm at Camp Good Dog, and it's 5 acres, and it's covered in snow right now. And if you want to see some of my dogs and puppies and everybody, all the guests playing in the snow and wearing antlers and costumes, you just go to Camp Good Dog. Go to Camp Good Dog on Facebook, and you can see all that. Plus, we still have space for Christmas. Not lots of space, but some spaces. So call us right away, and we can book you in if you're in the Vancouver area, anywhere. We do pick up and drop off all through the Lower Mainland. And I want to thank all the voters who vote us A-list #1 kennels yet again. So we keep winning, and we're happy to keep winning because we make your dog so happy when they're here. So if you need your dog picked up and brought to camp because you want to go on a holiday or you've got lots of relatives coming, or all of a sudden you just found out someone's allergic or the carpets are coming because someone got you a nice gift and you want your dog gone for a few days, we can pick him up or you can drop him off and we'll show him a great time. And, well, at least right now there's a ton of snow to play in out here at Camp Good Dog, so we still have space. All right, Stan, so I promised you if I made you talk about the Pitbull issue, I would let you have some time to talk about the dogs you truly love. So how about it? What's your favorite breed, Dr. Stan Coren?
I like kissy-faced dogs, okay? And so, for me, they're very often sporting dogs, some of the little hounds, and, of course, spaniels. Now, do you know where spaniels get their name?
Spain?
Spain, yes, you're right. The span comes in Spaniel, it comes from Espanol, okay? And generally speaking, dogs are either named after the person who created them, or so we get people like Doberman Pinscher, or after Herr Doberman, or the Jack Russell Terrier after Parson Jack Russell, and that sort of thing. Or
I want to talk to both those fellas. Okay.
But most typically after the place which they come from. So we have an Irish Terrier, an English Pointer, that sort of thing. So you would then think that spaniels must have been developed in Spain. But it turns out that at the time when the spaniel breeds were being developed, not one breed of spaniel was developed in Spain. So why do we name these dogs spaniels? Well, the reason is that at that time, the great myth was that the greatest lovers in the world came from Spain. So these kissy-faced dogs, regardless of the realities, had to have come from...
I think it's Italy now. I think people think of Italy and Sicily as the place of lovers. Or maybe it's Paris. I don't know. But yeah, I could see that. They are... Okay, so in that group, you kind of named a big group. That when you said sporting, you talking about retrievers?
Retrievers are, I think, as a group, probably the sweetest dogs in the universe, except for the Chesapeake, which was bred also to be a guard dog, to sort of guard the little carts full of dead ducks. But almost all the retrievers are really quite sweet. You get
so how come there's bite differences rates between the colors, and how come to me chocolate labs seem to be so much more hyper? What's with that?
Well, that's probably true. You can rank order the labs. The calmest and the most affectionate are black, followed by yellow, followed by chocolate. And that simply has to do with the way that the genes are linked up. The same place on the DNA where you have the color coding also happens to code certain proteins which are involved with activity level. So that's
that true for other dogs? That's not true for poodles, though. I don't notice any difference in temperament depending on color with my poodles.
Well, the first data actually came out of England, and it looked at Cocker Spaniels. And it found that solid-colored Cocker Spaniels, especially in amber or black had the highest bite rate.
I knew that before you said it. I remember the 80s. I remember when they were the most popular dog, and I was getting 2 calls a week for little yellow cockers who'd bitten children. Yeah, I remember that. But it's not the breed. You can train a cocker to be good. You just have to keep in mind when you have a tiny, tiny dog and a tiny, tiny person, there's conflict there. The dog can get hurt so easily, right?
No, and especially if you have a toy spaniel, like, one of my favorite breeds is the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. They're great sucky-faced dogs. I mean, my youngest daughter calls them love sponges. Or the smallest of the toy spaniels, the Papillon. Those dogs can be fairly fragile. So you have to be careful. I mean, if you own a Rottie and a Papillon, well, if the Rottie gets excited, and he steps back, you can break the leg of your little toy spaniel. So you have to be careful with those dogs. That's one of the reasons why I have a fondness for beagles. Now, everybody, whenever I say that, goes, don't you believe your own research? Beagles are 7 from the bottom in terms of working.
Oh my gosh. Defiant, strong-willed, just the memory. Like, I saw a squirrel in that tree last year, so I will bark at that tree today. I mean, really, they test my patience. I love them, and they take a pounding from children, but oh my gosh.
But you see, you just hit the reason why, when people say, why did you get a beagle? Don't you believe your own research? And I told them I got a beagle because I needed a beagle. I have 9 grandchildren, so I needed a dog who was relatively indestructible and who was incredibly sociable. And they are that. They are sucky-faced dogs. Okay.
And she'll never hold a grudge, right? Not smart enough to remember.
Well, that's the beauty,
That's not beauty, that's idiocy.
No, he looks at that child and he forgets that that's the kid who twisted my ear an hour ago, okay?
Oh, yeah, no, my poodle would remember for life. It'd be watching that kid. I'm watching you for life. It would be wary of that one child if it did something wrong to it intentionally. But if it did something wrong to it by accident, the poodle would forgive. Poodles understand intent. And I don't know if you're going to dispute that, but I know they do.
No, I wasn't going to dispute that. I was going to say that beagles don't care if it was intended or not. They are just sociable. So if you happen to have stepped on their paw, this hour, and an hour later you invite them up on the sofa next to you, they're going to snuggle up next to you. And so for the purpose that I needed, which is I needed a dog which was incredibly sociable because I had young grandchildren, well, then I got a beagle. Now, the kids are now growing up, so the beagle, unfortunately, has passed, and he has not been replaced by another beagle because,
because enough of that, right? Enough of that.
Well, no, it's not enough of that. It's just that quality in the dog is no longer needed. Now I need a dog who's smart enough to outsmart my growing grandchildren.
Yeah. And I don't want to malign beagles. They do have their purposes. It's just that woo at stuff that's not even happening anymore that gets a bit old, don't you think?
Well,
boo 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 boo, and you look at the tree and there's nothing in it.
Well,
nothing.
You have to recognize, the beagle is really a nose and a stomach on feet. Okay, that's what he is, and he's he can be a wonderful dog. I mean, it was because of me that Agriculture Canada, eventually put beagles in the airport inspection thing because
they're so perfect. Nobody's scared of those little guys, and they don't stop sniffing. They're perfect. That was you. Nice one.
I mean,
they should be there. That is a good job for them. And the Jack Russells and the Dobies. The only problem I have with Jack Russells and Dobies, they're both so smart. They train up so fast with me, but they really do take advantage of owners who are not strong-willed. And so if you're a marshmallow, don't get one. They'll challenge you every day.
Well, in Dobies, there's a huge sex difference. The boys are much closer to being mush buckets than the girls.
That is true.
And so, if you want a Dobie, and you've not had a dog like that before, I suggest you get a male because they're going to be more trainable. And although they're bigger, they're less.
Yeah, but it would have to be neutered if you're a beginner because Okay, because
Yep.
an intact male, I mean, I have a couple of intact poodles. I actually have 3 that interact with each other all the time. If they were Dobermans and they were intact, I would not be able to do that. If a female in heat was around anywhere in the air, they'd just go after each other. So, you got to watch it. And that's the thing we talked about Pitbulls and Rotties and all these tough breeds. Even if you pick a mutt that just happens to look like one, you get this like super surveillance from the rest of the world. Everybody's trying to tell, I don't know if you're going to have that dog there. Everybody thinks they're an expert. And when I park my golden retriever outside Starbucks, no one says a word. But when I used to park my Rottie Hound Cross or my Wolf Cross, people used to like shimmy along to avoid my friendly, good-natured sweetheart there. So you kind of have to watch that, right? Rules are going to apply to you. Every rule that ever was. And that sucks.
Well, part of it has to do with the appearance of the dog. So, you take a white dog like a Miramana or a Great Pyrenees, and people think, well, that's got to be a big friendly dog because they're white.
Yeah.
And in fact, both of them are herd guarding dogs. And they can have a bit of a temperament problem. So, you have to be careful. Appearances are not everything.
But you can use it to your advantage. So if you have a real sweet Rottweiler, don't give it a black studded macho collar. Give it a pink collar. Like go for the Christmas bow. Go for the bandana. So people have a different impression.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And there is data, by the way, which shows that people tend to think that black dogs are more hostile. And there's a phenomena in some of the shelters that it's harder for them to adopt out black dogs. And the
cats
trick
too. It's the black cats too. So if you're out there listening and you're in the mood to adopt an animal, go for a black dog, go for a black cat. You're going to get a better behaved animal because you're going to have way more selection because they're picked over. Nobody even looks at them. So they're going to get a great dog or cat if you're willing to go black.
But we use that same sort of trick which you were talking about. When I had done some fundraising for the Edmonton Humane Society. This is back, 10, 12 years ago. And they had these 2 lovely black labs, and they were very sweet and that sort of thing. And they said that they were having trouble adopting them because nobody wanted a black dog. And so I went out they had a little dollar store nearby, and I bought 2 really flowery, paisley kind of bandanas, and I wrapped them around the dog's neck, and the dogs were adopted the next day.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's so that way. And you know what? I see some really atrocious behaved dogs, and I can tell why they were selected. They happen to have blue eyes. They happen to have freckles. They happen to have a spot. But, like people, look at the behavior when you pick your dog.
Exactly.
This is not what you should be choosing by. Oh. Okay, well, you know what? We've run out of time, but I really want to keep talking to you. So can we come back and do another show? I've got all these why questions people have sent in to me. Why does my cat do this? Why does my dog do this? Somebody asked why their dog doesn't lift his leg yet. And it reminded me years ago of when I was trying to get one of my children, my son, to use the toilet. And I asked this expert about it. When's he going to get rid of the diapers? When? He's already 2.5, and he said, don't worry. By the time he gets married, he won't be wearing diapers. Just relax. And it's like that, he doesn't lift his leg. He's 7 months old. Well, you know what? Get him around other boys and he will. So some of your questions I can answer, but some of your questions I can't. And Dr. Coren can. So if you have a question, a why question, why does my dog do this? Why does my cat do this? Why does any kind of why question you can think of, then that's really what we're looking for. If you send those questions to me at Pet Life Radio, I'll ask him next time he's on the show, and we're going to book a show right now. One I had from someone, a breeder, is I once substituted a puppy that I bought in with a nursing litter, and it always seemed like the mother dog thought of the substitute as one of her puppies. Is that true, or did she know the difference? I think she knew the difference. What do you think?
No, they'll accept pretty much anything, especially a newly whelped female. The real trick is that when the pup first comes into the litter, the female is going to recognize that this is new and this is strange. But within an hour, the dog has taken on the scent of all of the puppies that it's in with. And so it no longer appears to be strange, and it's usually accepted. So it really has to do with scent, at least in the very beginning.
Okay, so that explains something. I had a golden retriever, had her first litter of golden doodles, and I happened to have a poodle that, was sort of staying here briefly, and he was weaned. He was not nursing, and she started nursing him, and he was, different breed from her litter and older than her litter, much bigger. And she just got him back on the milk. So you think she thought he was one of hers, freakishly old and a different breed, but one of hers? Really?
Yeah. I mean, if they're in the same place and they take on the same.
Oh, funny.
It reminds me.
And does he think that's his new mom? Like he doesn't know it? No, he knows that's not mom.
No,
so he's freeloading. He's working the system.
Dogs don't have the same response toward mums the way that humans do. Okay, so it's another member of his pack or his family who he can take advantage of, but it's not mom.
What about years and years ago? I did something similar. Only the female that I had did not nurse the poodle pup I brought in with her golden doodle litter. This is like 9 years ago. She did not nurse the new one. She loved the new one, and they were best buddies her whole life. But that the poodle's 9 now. The golden passed last summer. But did she think that was her offspring, just for some reason weaned earlier than the others, or did she not feed it because she knew it was different?
Well, it could be something as simple as the fact if it was put into the litter when it was a little bit older. And if it went to suckle and it bit too hard, then it was not going to be allowed back. I mean, it's that simple. So,
what about the other pups? Could they have forced her out? Would they have known her as an outsider?
Well, there is a struggle. I mean, depending on the number of teats that the dog has and the number of pups that you have, there is a struggle at the milk bar. But generally speaking, it's more likely to be the adult who controls the access.
Okay, I understand. Wow. Okay, so it's been so good talking to you. I did ask one of my listener questions. We've got more. We've got a question about a golden retriever who loves too much. Definitely met some of those. We've got a question about blue heeler and bones, and a cat that is fascinated by water, a cat that attacks dogs. We got a whole bunch of questions. So I hope you'll come back, and hopefully I'll have some more for you.
Well, I'm perfectly willing to come back.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody. It's been a great party at Animal Party Pet Life Radio. And me, Deb Wolf, I'm your host. If you want to see my gorgeous animals and all my visiting guests playing in snow and dressed up for Christmas, go to Camp Good Dog Facebook. And I'll be back soon with another show with Dr. Coren. So send me your questions. Until next time, be good to your animals.
Let's Talk Pets. Every week on demand. Only on PetLifeRadio.com.